Get inspired by seeing fellow heroes apply AHK in everyday wins. The shared stories alone make membership a no-brainer. Our club's Telegram crew is all about collaboration and friendships. See how others tackle AHK challenges and feel the group energy. So, Isaias, this has been on our topics list. I gave you a link a few minutes ago, if you want to look at it just to see, because I know you've been busy. I haven't had a chance to talk with you, but I looked it over, and it was a very good list of stuff of when we create scripts and give them to other people, the common reasons why they break.
And why they break. Yeah, we have talked about this in many different ways.
That video up above, which I'm not saying play it, but I'm going to tell you, Notebook LM just did an amazing job of talking through this list of stuff. I fed it to AI, and the big one is just, hey, dummy, your environment's different in one way or another, right? It's one of the most common. There's something about your environment is different.
Yes. So, and that's the key point here. 99% of times when a program doesn't run in a different computer, it's just something is different, and you're making assumptions based on your script that they break on the other computer. So this is very important. That's the reason why we don't like image search and stuff like that. It's just like, and coordinates, images and coordinates. Like, that's the one thing that changes the most, right? So there's a lot of things like the operating system. A lot of people might have the same operating system in the same version, but the amount of people that have different sizes for monitors, like the coordinates and how the images are fed into their display drivers, holy crap. Yeah. They change so much that basing your script on this alone breaks almost every single time, right?
Which is why we often will say you're giving a script to someone else. But even like when I was at TI and a lot of our computers were very standardized, even when I would run it on my other TI computer, things would still break, right? Like it was just amazing. It's not necessarily that like you're giving it to Irfan, who's across the world and has a whole different system. Even two systems side by side you'd think are identical. Man, they often aren't.
But interestingly, the one that is hardest to kind of like figure out is the antivirus stuff.
Yeah.
Because everything else, like the operating system, oh, are you running Windows 10? Well, I made it in Windows 11. That might be different. Oh, my computer is really fast. Yours is slow. Like those kind of things, they're easy to spot. But this one here, the antivirus or security kind of like interference, that's really annoying because your program is looking good. Everything looks good. Everything is correct. You check all your assumptions. If you're doing the right thing and creating logs for your programs, you log what the version of the operating system is, how much memory you have, and stuff like that. And in the end, everything is looking correct, and still the program doesn't run. And many times people have been with the antivirus for so long that they don't even think about it. Like it's just something that is in my computer, right? So you tell them, what have you changed? Have you done anything? And they're not going to think about it. Like they're not going to even think about the antivirus, right? So it's very hard to catch those.
Yeah, and one that it's probably implied, but I don't know if we scroll down if it'll be there. But like I turn off UAC, and then I give it to other people who don't, and things often that's often the thing that
that's people, the one that you fall into.
Try disabling UAC, see if your script works. If it does, okay, now we at least have a direction, right? We don't say leave it off, but it's a good quick check.
Many people ask me like, why do you have like your Windows is so basic? Like I use the normal Windows bar. I don't use any additional antivirus other than this, and it is because I keep my main computer is actually a Linux computer. So if I do customization is in that one, but this one I keep it like this because I code in it, and my program I want to see it in the most normal environment possible. So I tend not to modify my taskbar, for example, because that's not as common as you might think. Many people customize their taskbar, but it's not as common as you might think. For example, Joe, you were talking about, when I move, what was it? The warning window, this one?
Yeah.
We move it to the side and the taskbar, or it moves in a weird way. And I was like, I cannot even test that because in a normal computer, you cannot even put the taskbar there.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I didn't even think about that, because it's very unlikely.
And it's why I said, well, forget it, because I'm one of the few people that will have this issue. I'm like, it's worth fixing for other people. Very few people have this issue. So, yeah.
Then we go with other more complex or more subtle things like hard-coded paths. Yeah. And actually, you have no idea. I usually think that I don't hard-code a lot of things. And then I told AI, okay, go ahead and take a look at this script. Tell me about the problems. And one of the first things is that you have this hard-coded thing here and this hard-coded thing there. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I don't think about that one as being hard-coded, but at the same time, and by that I mean like I have a path into a variable and I'm using the variable everywhere else. And then it was like, yeah, but that is in your computer, you know, like in that other computer might be where it's some.
Well, and it's kind of ironic with this.
Yeah.
We created that S drive so we could hard code paths and they would work for all of us.
Right, exactly.
It also screws us because we'll sometimes forget that they're hard coded, right?
It is a hard coded path. And that's what I was kind of like implying. We had a path to a library. I'm like, but that's kind of like a variable, right? But then it was like, no, that is a hard-coded path, right? Missing stuff. That is something that I was telling Russell recently in his tool. He has a button to kind of like get remote control, help for the users. And when they click on it, it should open a remote control tool. Yeah, but his installer is not putting the remote control tool. So when people click on that, the whole program dies. And I'm like, yeah, that shouldn't happen, right? That's one of the reasons why I stopped.
The number 14 made me laugh because at TI, people would map their own, shortcuts, map drives to network folders, but they were different letters for, depending on what they did. So it was one of like that at a bigger company, that comes up a lot.
Yeah. Now, case sensitivity is very weird. And again, I fell for it in AutoHotkey. So AutoHotkey, they say, like in the documentation, that AutoHotkey is not case sensitive, but I think that is wrong. I would say AutoHotkey is 99% case insensitive. There's this 1% of situations where the case of what you're typing actually matters, and it always bites you in the butt because you're not thinking about it, because AutoHotkey is case insensitive. So I would say case sensitivity is very, very important to kind of like keep in the back of your head.
Yeah, like earlier with the API calls, the get and post, we didn't have a post, you had a get request. The letters, the GET, are actually case sensitive because it's HTTP protocol that's case sensitive. You're just calling it from AutoHotkey. So just because you're writing code in AutoHotkey doesn't mean you're still not using some other libraries that are tools that would be case sensitive.
The funny thing about that one is that I recently learned, I don't know if that was like that on HTTP 1, but HTTP 2 and the other ones that they have, it is the server decides whether it's case sensitive or not. So it is best, like the best recommendation is to always do it uppercase, right? But it's like, if the server decides that it is lowercase, you're screwed. I'm like, what? Okay.
Which is to your point, is if you're testing on one that actually is a strict, that's a bad thing. You know.
Yeah. So you go with the most. You should go always, and actually that with the case sensitivity, if you just make sure to be consistent in how you do stuff, that normally fixes that problem. Because if you consistently do stuff in one way, the case sensitivity is not going to bite you in the ass, right?
Also, Isaias, it's I hadn't thought about it, but you and I both, and a lot of people here too, either use QAP or prompt assistant or hot strings if it's written. But that is one way to help control to be more consistent, right? Use some sort of a text expansion thing or some way to programmatically give you the text instead of typing it, because it's easy to, let your guard down and not be consistent.
One of the things that I saw, for example, in the HK editor is that the autocomplete is all lowercase, and it's okay, like if you want to keep it that way. But here's the problem with that. So, for example, control set text. This command has two T's right next to each other. First of all, it's difficult to read, difficult to make it correct. But not only that, if at any point Lexicos finds himself in the need to make something case sensitive, it will default to this. I know it for a fact. So instead of forcing everything to be lowercase, make the correct casing, even if you don't use it yourself, right? Because later on, when push comes to shove, like people goes ahead and said like, oh no, we have to make it case sensitive, right? I guarantee you that they're not gonna make it like this. That's not gonna be it. Like that one is not gonna work. And there are many commands like this that you have several times the same letter one after the other, and it's gonna be very annoying. So about case sensitivity right now, it is not. I don't think it might be like that every single time. So go with the most common way of spelling something. As you mentioned, like HTTP GET should be uppercase. I don't like it. It makes me have to type uppercase letters. I don't like them. That's the correct way, even if you don't like it, right?
And I put a video that we did where 16 times AutoHotkey is case sensitive.
Sensitive, right? Yeah. That was a very interesting. I love researching that one because, again, as you mentioned, like 16 different ways.
And we did this, what, 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago? We should ask AI to see if it comes up with any others, right? Because we didn't have AI at the time. And I mean, I remember, we asked Tank and Geek Dude and some other, experts for their ideas. But we got a pretty good list, but it might be still worth asking AI because it's very good at that kind of stuff.
Right. About error handling validation, there's something that I would tell you here. It just jumped out of me, like the race conditions. This one is so weird. AutoHotkey is single instance, so I don't even think. Well, I can do it with a timer though. I think I can do that.
Well,
that's what I think it should with a timer. If I create two timers that modify the same variable, I could generate this issue.
But it's also because we talk about it in the getting the active window, right? And that's a base condition.
Right. Well, yeah, that is a type of race condition, yes. Mainly in programming. If you say the word race conditions, what I right away think about is two threads that try to modify the same variable. And in the end, one of them is going to have the last word on it. And because of that, you might get the wrong result. That's what I understand by it. So let me see. So I have let me do this real quick. So basically I want to update and I want to do the same thing for update 2. So basically, if I have 2 timers that call 2 different functions or the same function, let's just make counter equals 0. And then I think that's basically what this would be a problem of. So this would be the problem here. Yeah. So this is a weird number. So the idea would be that if I have a loop, let's say that I have a loop that is 200, and it just makes the counter go by 1. At the end of the loop, you have 200. But if you set 2 threads, 2 different threads, that they both modify the same variable, and they're different threads, at the end, the number that you're going to get is not going to be correct because of what it's doing. And I don't know how to do it in AutoHotkey, because in here we are single threaded, and when I do this thing, it's not going to do what I think it does, and I don't know if it already even stopped. So I will create an example. But for me, whenever you say race conditions, it's usually that 2 threads that modify 1 variable, and you don't know which one actually finished first. That's the problem. Now, we mentioned something about it, like when a control is not there. I guess what you're referring to here is a timing problem in which I get the value before I try to get something out of the control while the control is not there yet. It's going to be there. It's just that I tried to get it before the control was there.
Well, and to that point, our control helper script for the Win32 controls, because it takes time to build that logic, right? Every time,
Yes.
and it's also I won't call it advanced, but it's a bit cumbersome to flesh it out. So our control helper script helps write that syntax for you to do a better job of saying, is it actually there? Is it available? Okay, go click it or do whatever, right?
The problem with all of these guys is that they're very subtle. When you look at this list, like when the window is not there, or when you're missing something, right? Or again, race conditions, or trying to get information beforehand, before the things are really there, or when you're making any sort of assumptions, right? What's going to happen is that these ones are really tricky to debug because they happen sometimes.
Well,
but some of the times it works just fine.
One example is that the connecting to Word or Excel, right? Like, there actually is more than one Word or Excel window that exists that you might connect to. Or sorry, one doesn't have a window, the other one does, right? That's part of the issue. But yeah, there's just things you're like, what do you mean I can't do that? It's there because you're connecting to the wrong one, but you don't realize it.
Right. There's a lot of the other ones that we were looking at. They're very easy to spot, right? Those kind of things are very hard to spot, specifically when they happen sometimes. Actually, if I remember right, Russell told me that's the word that I hate the most. Like sometimes,
Yeah, no
Sometimes.
doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. It sometimes happens, sometimes it doesn't. So uh many sort of assumptions, what the default program is, registry assumptions, privilege assumptions, like things that you think that you are an admin on this computer, and in the end you're not, and stuff like that.
Usually when Isaias gets stuck on something and he asks me for help, that's what I start doing is questioning his assumptions. What about
Right.
this? What about this? Like, is that available? Or did you confirm? And he's like, I don't know. Let's go see. And either he solves it by saying his answer out loud, or because we think differently, you can't. It's really hard to pull up your own assumptions, right? It's really hard. It's like proofreading your own work. So getting someone else or feeding it to AI and saying, what are my assumptions?
All right. So in any case, another thing is they're weird bugs. This one here, right there, that one is crazy. Keyboard layout differences. And again, it is something very easy to assume, right? Like you always sit down on a computer, it has the keyboard almost in the same way. Is very strange when you go ahead and type the number 1, and then out comes the Z letter, and you're like, what?
Yeah. Well, and I think the 28, which we just had earlier too, right? Conflicting hotkeys that you're in. Last week we dove kind of deep into how do you map back the hotkeys to a given program, or at least see if they're used, if there's already a hotkey that's been assigned to it. And
I'm so
Connie,
surprised.
Connie, yeah, Connie, well, I see his thumbnail here. Connie, did you ever go back? Because I know you said you tried the NurseSoft script and it didn't pick up the hotkeys, but Isaiah said, hey, you need to go relaunch your other tools because it looks at what starts after it. Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's what he said, but no, it didn't pick
Still
up the
didn't.
AutoHotkey.
It didn't pick it up. Right.
Interesting. All right.
It depends on how AutoHotkey registers them. And again, that goes back to the same topic.
Right.
Each program, there are multiple ways of programs to register the hotkeys. And if the way how NearSoft is looking at them is not the one that AutoHotkey is using, then they're completely invisible to that software, right?
And earlier this week, my semicolon key turned to a Spanish N.
Oh, that's a good one.
I thought I thought it was one of your script might have changed it, but
no.
I had to go in and delete the Spanish keyboard. I couldn't
Right,
just
exactly.
quit.
No, I'm going to tell you.
I couldn't switch to the English keyboard. I had to go and physically delete both Spanish and the Spanish keyboard, and then it worked.
Oh, that's interesting. I always fall for that one. The Windows bar and the space key. If you hit that, it switches your language.
Oh,
So here at the bottom, notice how it says Spanish, Latin America. If I do Windows spacebar, it just goes ahead and switches those like very quickly.
okay. So
I fell for that many times in which I'm just typing, and then just from the sudden it starts typing in Spanish, and I'm like, what?
Hey, Isaiah, do me a favor, find the clipboard format tool, because you brought up something interesting that I don't think we ever discussed it. Was I was really surprised when I was, of course, using AI to develop that tool. It mentioned on the clipboard there's actually something set that tells you the language. So see how it says locale English United States?
Yep.
So that is actually pushed to the clipboard as information of about the system was copied from, right? Which was
so they do have sort of like some way to keep track of the environment, because that one environment variable is very important, and very likely there are other things being copied that we probably don't know about.
Fair enough.
But it's very likely that the locale is kind of like very important, right? Like, yeah, because when I copy something, I have to know which language it was copied from to display it correctly later on, right?
Well, again, it's it's your OS systems language. It's not, if I pull up a Spanish page and copy it, it's still going to say US English, right?
Or
Like, 'cause-
probably maybe the currently selected language. Let me see. Hold on.
yeah, let's see if you switch yours.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, so yeah.
So as soon as I changed my locale, now I copy it, and now it's telling me, hey, the language when I copy it was that. So
Yeah.
maybe that might be useful in certain contexts. But again, right,
Yeah,
they
unfortunately,
are doing, they're trying to handle a few assumptions there, right?
yeah. I just thought that was really interesting. But to your point, I didn't ask it what other things are there, right? Which could be interesting to see what else is available.
Right.
Cool. Well, I'm glad we finally got to that one. It was one I thought AI did a good job. I mean, I came up with the list, I fed it to AI, and then I reviewed what it gave back and helped prioritize it. I thought it did a pretty good job. And that video was really good of just talking through the things that same thing, just much more concisely than we do, right? But we did a deeper dive. But
I
yeah,
like it in a list though.
yeah, sure, 100%. That's why I wanted to still review it, even though we made that video. I'm like, it's better to talk through to at the list to help people understand the implications and when you're going to run into those different things, right?
Right.
Get insider savings, 25% off courses, scripts, and done-for-you AHK jobs, making premium tools affordable and accessible. Members get unlimited access to 466 plus hours of video lessons, packed with AHK insights to binge learn whenever inspiration hits.